Let me ask you something before I start. Have you ever heard footsteps when you knew you were completely alone? Not imagined footsteps, not wind, not animals. Real footsteps. Measured, slow, careful. Because that's where this story begins, and I swear to you, every word I'm about to tell you is exactly how it happened. Before I go on, don't forget to subscribe to our channel before listening to the story, because there are many more scary stories coming up. All right, now listen carefully. I never planned to be in Ravenwood Cemetery that night. If you've lived anywhere near upstate New York, you probably know the place. Old cemetery, massive iron gates, graves dating back to the early 1800s. It sits just outside a small town called Marlow, surrounded by trees so thick they block the streetlights completely. During the day, it's quiet, peaceful even. At night, nobody goes there. I didn't believe in bad places back then. I was 26, working late shifts, exhausted all the time. That night, I took a shortcut I'd taken 100 times before, through the road that cuts along the cemetery fence. Only this time, my car died. No warning, no sputtering, just dead. I remember sitting there, staring at the dashboard clock, 11:47 p.m. Of course it had to be late. No signal on my phone, battery at 12%. The town was a mile back the way I came. Ravenwood Cemetery was right there on my right, stretching farther than I could see. I considered waiting in the car, but something about the silence bothered me. No insects, no wind, not even distant traffic. Just stillness. So I grabbed my phone, locked the car, and decided to walk toward the town. The road curved tightly along the cemetery fence, tall iron bars with spear-shaped tips. The graves were only a few feet inside, barely visible through the darkness. That's when I heard it. A footstep. Not behind me. Inside the cemetery. Crunch. Gravel. I stopped walking. So did the sound. I told myself it was an animal, a raccoon, a deer. Ravenwood backed up to forest land, plenty of wildlife. Still, I stood there longer than I should have. Then I heard it again. Crunch. Pause. Crunch. Slow, deliberate, and closer. I turned my phone's flashlight toward the fence. The beam barely reached the first row of headstones. Old marble slabs leaning at odd angles, some cracked clean in half. Nothing moved. No shadows. No shapes. No sound. I laughed too loudly and started walking again, faster this time. That's when the footsteps changed. They didn't match my pace. They waited. Every time I stopped, they stopped. Every time I walked, they followed. Always just far enough away that I couldn't tell where they came from. I didn't look anymore. I just walked, heart pounding, trying to convince myself that fear was doing this, not reality. Then I reached the gate. The main gate of Ravenwood Cemetery stood open. That wasn't right. It was always locked after sunset. Everyone in Marlow knew that. City ordinance, trespassing fines. I slowed down, staring at the open gate. The hinges didn't squeak, the iron didn't move. And then I heard footsteps on pavement. Not gravel anymore. That was when I realized something I hadn't before. The footsteps were no longer inside the cemetery. They were on the road, behind me. I stopped. The footsteps took one more step, then stopped too. I turned around slowly. The road was empty. No headlights, no people, no movement. But I could feel it. That awful pressure in your chest when you know you're being watched. My phone buzzed. Low battery warning.
I turned back toward the gate without thinking. I don't know why. Maybe my brain decided the cemetery felt safer than the road. Maybe fear does strange math. The moment I stepped inside Ravenwood, the temperature dropped. Not dramatically, but enough to notice. The smell hit me next. Damp soil, old stone, something metallic underneath it all. I followed the narrow gravel path that split the graves into neat rows. That's when I saw the footprints. Fresh footprints. Right there in the dust. One set, leading between the graves. Not mine. They were deep, heavy, someone wearing boots, and they were walking ahead of me. I stood frozen, staring at them, when something clicked in my head that made my stomach drop. I hadn't heard the gate close, but the road was silent again. No cars, no wind, just Ravenwood. I lifted my phone and checked the time again. 11:53 p.m. 6 minutes had passed. It felt like 30 seconds. Then I heard breathing. Not loud, not dramatic, just controlled, from somewhere between the graves. Close. And right then, I realized something worse than fear. Whatever was walking with me had entered the cemetery before I did.
I should have turned around. That's the honest truth. I should have walked right back out of Ravenwood Cemetery, back onto the road, back toward my dead car, anything but what I actually did. But fear doesn't make smart decisions. Fear makes quiet ones. I stood there staring at those footprints for a long time, longer than I want to admit. My brain kept trying to solve it logically. Maybe a groundskeeper, maybe a late-night visitor, maybe someone else's car broke down too. But none of that explained the breathing. It wasn't panicked. It wasn't strained. It sounded patient, like whoever it was had nowhere else to be. I whispered, "Hello?" The word felt wrong the moment it left my mouth. The sound didn't travel far. It felt like the darkness swallowed it immediately. No answer. But the breathing stopped. That silence was worse. I took one step back. Gravel crunched under my shoe. And immediately, a footstep crunched back, closer than before. That's when I made the mistake. I followed the footprints. I don't know why. I still can't fully explain it. Maybe some part of me believed that seeing the person would make it less terrifying, that the unknown was doing most of the damage. So I walked. The path between the graves narrowed, headstones pressed closer together, some so old the names were unreadable, dates from the 1800s, children, entire families buried side by side. The footprints led deeper. My phone flashlight flickered once. I froze. Battery, 5%. I tightened my grip around it like it was a weapon. I tilted the phone down and saw something that made my skin crawl. There were 2 sets of footprints now, one set leading ahead and one set circling, wide arcs around the graves, slow, intentional, like someone pacing, like someone waiting. I stopped walking. The circling footprints stopped too, but the other set didn't. Crunch, crunch, straight toward me. Turned off my flashlight. I don't know why I did that either. Maybe instinct, maybe some primitive idea that darkness would hide me. But the moment the light went out, I realized how black it really was. No moonlight, no street glow, just the faint outline of headstones against a sky that felt too low. Then, a voice. Not right next to me, but close enough. "Hey." Just that. Calm, male, American accent, normal. Too normal. I didn't answer. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure he could hear it. "I know you're there.
the voice said. "You don't need to be scared." That's when I noticed something terrifyingly small. He wasn't out of breath. Anyone walking that much in gravel in the dark would have been breathing harder, but his voice was steady, comfortable, like this wasn't new for him. I swallowed and finally spoke. "I'm just trying to get back to town." There was a pause, then a soft chuckle. "Yeah, so am I." Footsteps moved again, slow, heavy boots, closer. I backed up and my heel hit stone, a grave behind me, nowhere else to go without turning my back. "I don't like being followed," I said. Another pause. Then, "Funny, I was thinking the same thing." That's when I saw him. Not clearly, not fully, just a shape separating itself from the darkness. A man, tall, broad shoulders, baseball cap pulled low, hands in his jacket pockets, still about 10 feet away. He didn't step closer. He didn't need to. "You broke down on the road," he said, casually. I froze. I saw your car, hood still warm. He never told him that. I never told him anything. My phone vibrated in my hand, 1% battery. I tightened my grip around it like it was a weapon. "Look," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "if this is some kind of joke—" "It's not," he interrupted, still calm, still controlled. "I just need to ask you something." I didn't answer. He tilted his head slightly. "Did you hear the footsteps too?" My stomach dropped. The phone screen went black. Total darkness. That's when I heard movement, not from him, but behind me, between the graves, fast, running, multiple footsteps, not circling anymore, closing in, and the man in front of me smiled. I couldn't see his teeth, but I could hear it in his voice.